Hare Krishna, Satnam, Aho, Namaste. What's up? Good to see you. What's today? Today's Wednesday. Oh my gosh, today's Wednesday. Yay. Yay, Wednesday. That's awesome. So this is the semi-regular Satsang. Hello. The purpose of Satsang is to gather together and speak about spirituality, and to share insights and influences, and to discover more about the internal world as opposed to just the external world. And looking at it from the perspective and the lens of I am a spiritual being, I'm a human experience, and I am discovering new ways with ancient eternal technology to steady myself, to learn myself, to grow this vessel, grow this body, this spirit, in accordance with divine principles. In ways that are aligned with my highest good, and the highest good of all of those around us. To open myself with humility to receive knowledge and insight. To be of service to the human community with an open mind and open heart. To be consistently in action, yet detached from the results. Consistently in action, detached from the results. So I want to start today with a little prayer. It's really easy to learn. The lyrics are simple. I believe in the power of love to heal us all. Play it for a while. Repeat it. Allow the feeling of this prayer, tension of this prayer, of this mantra, to fill our entire being with strength and belief and hope. It really is love that heals. It's not medicine. It's not doctors. It's not surgery. It's loving ourselves enough to care how we feel, how we act, how we respond. Believing in the miracle of life. Believing in the miracle of this body. Reminding ourselves that the body heals mind is so powerful, but it's nothing in comparison to the Spirit. The great Spirit unites and binds us all. I believe in the power of love. I believe in the power of love. I believe in the power of love. To heal our soul. I believe in I believe in I believe in to heal our soul. I believe in the power of love. I believe in the power of love. I believe in the power of love. To heal our soul. To heal our soul. To heal our soul. Again. I believe in the power of love. I believe in the power of love. I believe in the power of love. To heal our soul. To heal our soul. To heal our soul. Again. I believe in the power of love. I believe in the power of love. I believe in the power of love. To heal our soul. To heal our soul. To heal our soul. To heal our soul. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Hare Today is a day that I feel like I could just chant myself into oblivion. Because it feels so good. Let's do a little bit more. So this is Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya. It's like saying, yay, God. Yay. You're awesome. Nobody's cooler than you, God. And opening our hearts to the God within us that lives inside of our hearts gives us so many blessings. The blessing of this body, this mind, this consciousness, our voices, our hands, our feet, our thoughts, our emotions, the ability to do great, powerful, terrible, awful, wonderful things in this life. But it takes all kinds. Right? The philosophers, the poets, the murderers, the killers, the sinners, the liars, the politicians, the teachers, the mothers, the fathers, the students, animals, plants. All part of this great wheel of life. Created, sustained by divinity. Celebrating with our voices. We celebrate with the song, the kirtan, the chanting of the holy names. To purify ourselves, purify our spirits, purify our intentions. Getting right. Getting right. Gopala Jaya Jaya, Govinda Jaya Jaya, 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 Gopala Jaya Jaya, Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya. Oh man. Yeah, take a moment to move and stretch a little bit. Wow. So I teach yoga, and if you ever want to take a class with me, just reach out, give me my schedule. I teach almost every day of the week. And all types of classes too. And if there's a class that I don't teach, then there's something that you want to learn, you just send me a note. You say, hey, this is something that I'm working on in my practice, and we'll set up a session and we'll do some yoga together. All right? So, getting into our sacred text, Bhagavad Gita. Thank you to the Gita. Thank you, Vyas. Great sage, the great poet sage, incarnation of Krishna that compiled the Holy Vedas. Why do we say Hare Krishna? Why is it that it's not like dear Jesus or dear God or dear Yahweh or dear Allah? It's because the mindset and the modality that we're focused on in this satsang, and I'm focused on in this satsang, the satsang of my YouTube and the satsang of my life, is bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga is devotional service to the Lord. And I have to admit that the more I do this, I tend to be a little bit of a lone wolf. I sort of like jump around from thing to thing, and I kind of harvest what I feel like, works for me for each particular thing. But the more I read this, the more I really start to embody it, the more I feel like my place is within this. That this to fully become bhakti yogi and surrender myself to that is part of my calling, and I think in many ways I've been feeling that, and I'm trying to I don't know if it's make peace with it. But just learn, because it's so contrary to everything that I've kind of felt my whole life. To join in on a cause, to be part of like some group or system, and then that's it, and then I'm tied to that. And there's there's something that's always felt a little bit safer about just lone wolfing it and not having any particular association to one clan, but being more like a diplomat, being part of all clans. But I don't know, something about this right now. And there's, as we get into more the demoniac nature that is explained towards the end of this book, that's really some of what has triggered this in me, because I'll just share it with you, and then we'll go from there. So we're on chapter 16, the divine and the demoniac natures. And if you're unfamiliar with the Bhagavad Gita, here's a really quick summary. Bhagavad Gita is an excerpt from a much longer text called the Mahabharata. Mahabharata is about a royal family that gets split in two, and through divine circumstances, a very small group of brothers who are great warriors are pitted against a very large group of their cousins who are a little bit more evil, and they're more of the lower nature, and the brothers are a little bit more of a higher nature. And there's one of these, so there's the Pandavas and the Kauravas, and there's, which is like the good guys and the bad guys. And this book takes place on the battlefield when the two armies of both sides of these cousins are about to come together and try to kill each other to, have total world domination. And Krishna, who is the supreme personality of Godhead, who is what we think of as, if you were to take the light in the sky, the voice of the great beyond, as like, and you were to bring it into a personal form, that's what Krishna would be. Krishna is God in human form. You can't even call it human because he's not human, but he's personal. So there's a difference. Never really want to think of God as human. That's the lower realms. But it's God that becomes personal. And in this incarnation of Krishna, of divinity as Krishna, the supreme person Krishna has a relationship, a friendship with this warrior named Arjuna. And Arjuna is a great warrior, he's a great man. And he's leading this army. And he has Krishna, his friend, and also his chariot driver with him. And he asks, when he loses his faith in whether or not he's going to be able to perform his task and do his duty, he turns to Krishna and becomes Krishna's disciple in the practice of yoga to learn how to remain steady through making difficult decisions, and remain steady through the changes that take place in life. He turns to Krishna and he says, who am I? Why am I here? What is this practice of yoga? And how do I learn it? How do I walk? How do I sit? How do I stand? How do I talk? He literally, before stepping into this battle, with the Lord by his side, reevaluates everything and goes through a transformational process where he learns what true transcendence is, why it matters, and then how to embody it. And there's plenty of times where he's even feeling like, this system of yoga that you've described seems to me to be impossible. Like, it would be easier to catch the wind, to control the wind, than to do yoga the way that you're describing it. And I know that for some of us, that's really how it feels. That doing yoga, being in the yogic system, not just in your body and learning, these moves and whatever, but this idea, this fundamental principle that what's going on outside me and what's going on in the material world is temporary. And I can place my faith into that, but I will suffer. And I'm going to suffer anyways, because suffer is part of the fuel and the fodder that keeps this world turning. However, if I am relying on the material world to give me some sort of stability and some sort of hope, something that I can ground into and rely on in this life, I will always be let down, because that's temporary. However, if I turn within and I learn that within my heart, and I believe within my heart with all my faith and with all my sincerity, that there is a spark of divinity that lives within me, that is always connected to divinity, and only loves me, only is doing the best for me, and only doing the best for all of us, even if it seems on the outside like it's evil or it's terrible or it's horrible or it's just or it seems really beautiful and it seems really amazing. What I have to remember is the really horrible stuff leads to really great stuff, and the really great stuff then leads to really horrible stuff. It's this constant back and forth that where if I'm always relying on that external, I'm never going to feel steady. I'm never going to feel able to really ground in and live on purpose, to stay focused, find my dharma or find my truth, and then do it. Do it. And then the step after that, once the dharma is discovered from going within, searching within the heart, finding what is the purpose that the Lord has given me in this life? What is my purpose? What's my reason for being in this world? Why am I here? And what am I doing? And how am I going to do it? Once that is discovered, and it might not be all the way discovered at first, but once it is discovered, at least in some capacity, the act of doing it is part of the responsibility of this body. But the transcendentalist and the transcendental person that we're seeking to become through the practice of yoga says, whatever the outcome is, whatever the material outcome of this is, I have no control over that. God decides what the outcome is going to be. What I am responsible for is going through the steps and going through the motions, being the one who takes this action in service of the Lord, and then whatever the result is, that's the responsibility of God, and that belongs to God, and it does not belong to me. I'm only here as the servant. I'm only here to serve him who sent me. It's a line from A Course in Miracles. It's a great line. I'm only here to serve him who sent me. I'm only here to serve him who sent me. Getting into that mindset, getting into that state of life is the true yoga. To transcend the temporary circumstances of the material world and stay focused on service, stay focused on devotion. And it's devotion and power from within. And there are many pitfalls to this because there are times where we think that we're in service. There are times where we think that we're doing the right thing. And some aspects of it might be, but there are some aspects that are kind of in a lower nature. There's sort of like we want to take credit for it. We want to have pride in our work. We want to have, we want to get validation. We want to make money. We want to be able to pay our bills. We want to feel like attractive and loved, and like things are working out for us. I mean, that's essentially what we want. We want to feel like things are working out for us, that it's all good. And the secret of this yoga, of this system of yoga, is to stay creative, to stay joyful, to stay positive, even when bad things are happening, even when it seems like all life is falling down around your ears. You have no idea where to turn to, and no idea what to do. You try to stay joyful, knowing that this is all part of God's plan. And I have work to do amidst that plan. And I might not get a lot of credit for it. I might not make a lot of money for it, but I'm try to make money in other ways. But for my devotional service, for what really matters to me, I'm doing that to be of service to a higher power, to the higher power outside of myself and the higher power within myself. And whatever the material outcome is, that's not what I'm concerned with. Whatever people think of me, it's not what I'm concerned with. What I'm concerned with is staying connected to my heart, staying steady in my values, steady in my purpose, steady in my practice, and not being swayed. And it's super difficult. Like Arjuna's right. It is almost as hard as trying to catch the wind. Because how to hold yourself up to that standard, the truth is it requires a lot of forgiveness. You really have to check in with yourself and say, I'm going to make mistakes. And the reason why I'm saying this, because these divine and demoniac natures, once we start getting into this, it's really easy to turn and look at yourself and go, man, I am a bad person. I have not been living right. What have I been doing with my life? Like, shit. However, there is always a way back. And you have to remember, you have to remember that God's got your back. You're here for a reason. You're here for a really, really, really good reason. And it might not even be a reason that you understand yet, but you're here for a good reason. And everything that you've done in your life, even though you might have been a sinner, even though you might have done horrible things, you made so many mistakes, you lived so many errors, God never once has turned his back on you. God never once has looked on you or from within you, seen you, known you, felt you, and said, that was a mistake. Why did I make that person? Why did I create them if all they were going to do is like screw it up? I'm just not giving that person any more chances. I'm just, you know what? That's one of my creations that just failed. I'm just, you know what? Failed attempt, tilt, stamp it, send it off to hell. No good anymore. That's not how it works. How it works is you make a mistake, and God goes, all right, good job. Cool. You did something. I love you. Awesome. Here's another opportunity. You might make a mistake with it. You might not. You might discover your greatness. You might not. But I love you anyways. I love you no matter what. Here's all kinds of opportunities. Here's all kinds of thoughts. Here's a whole range of feelings and a whole world, a whole Eden of opportunity and a whole sensory explosion for you to be a part of. Whatever decision you're going to make is going to be right. I'm going to love you no matter what. Question is, do you love yourself? Do you love yourself enough to know that there's certain things that feel good, certain things that don't feel good? And sometimes the things that feel really good are not that good for you. The things that don't feel that good are the things that you know in your heart are the right thing to do, and you got to muster it up, and you got to do the right thing. And afterwards, you'll feel great. But beforehand, you're going to go, ugh, really? I don't want to do it. I don't want to do the right thing. It's hard. It's not fun. Come on, I want to have fun. Let's have fun. Let's just be fun. Can't it just be fun? Being of service, doing the right thing actually becomes really fun after a while. Having discipline becomes fun after a while. It's challenging. And, I'm not trying to make myself out as like a perfect person. I slip and I fall all the time. I set goals for myself. I set things for myself according to my dharma. I don't achieve them all. I don't get it all done. I can't. I'm a human. I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, but I'm still freaking human. And there are some people that have these like amazing superpowers where like they just have this wealth of energy, this unstoppable drive. Two of my best teacher, my greatest teachers, Artie Dixon, my drum teacher, and my yoga teacher, Raghunath Kapo, these two, like they just have this unstoppable drive. They're so grounded in their purpose. They're so grounded in their faith that they wake up in the morning and boom, they're awake. Boom, 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 boom. Service, service, service. I look at them and I'm like, wow, like that's amazing. That is amazing. Here I am. I'm like thinking about things and emotional and feeling all this stuff and like, is this good? Is this not good? I'm like all in the back and forth, just such a soft, like, what do I do? Oh, I really look up to them, and it's this reminder that we have so much potential and such a wealth of resource, and that we have to really be gentle with ourselves, meet ourselves where we're at, because we all have this dual nature within us. We all have this divine demoniac nature within us, the yin and the yang, the dark and the light, the good and the bad, the right and the wrong, the happy and the sad. It's all a dynamic experience. And the yoga of devotion is to linger and balance in the middle, right? Seated as though neutral, taking action, but not attached to the results. You're doing seva right now. Staying in action, not taking responsibility for the results, trying to be joyful, and then creative at the same time, creative and expressive and loving, and not denying the relationship that we have as humans with other humans and with the material world. Like we're trying to have a conscious, loving, devoted, healthy relationship with the material world, where other people, other places, other things, they're all divine. They're all sparks of God. They're all these beautiful creations, these divine, beautiful creations. And we can love them. We can love them and we can enjoy them as long as I'm not looking at that and going, oh, that's a person over there that I love. Oh, that's a couch over there that I love. Oh, that's a car. Oh, that's a book that I love. Oh, that's a musical instrument that I love. Oh, it's a home that I love. No, it's that I love that which created it. I love the essence of it. I love the loving force behind all of creation. And I want to be in relationship with that. And when I meet a person who I feel attraction towards or I feel guided towards, it's the resonance of God within us that draws us towards each other, that helps us to harmonize with each other. And if I'm not aligned with someone and we find dissonance and discord with each other, maybe that person just hasn't found that same sense within themselves that we can align with, but I can still love them. I can still know that even though you're my enemy, you still have the spark of God within you. You still have a heart that beats. You're still part of the same human blueprint. That makes us the same on some level. And we're going to be on a different journey. We're going to be on our own unique different paths. And the things that you do, they might not make sense for me. The things that I do might not make sense for you. But can I love from the place of knowing, not just sort of believing or hoping, but through steadfast, resolved, unshakable faith that all of this is the work of divinity and that makes all of it beautiful. Even the ugliest, grossest, nastiest, most horrible things that you can picture, they're still part of God's plan. There's still a reason for it. If there wasn't a reason for it, it wouldn't exist. And because of that, we learn to love it. We learn to love it as we love God. We learn to love God as we love ourselves, and we love ourselves as God loves us, which is unconditionally. Forgiving ourselves for the things that we didn't know in the past, and then every day trying to do a little bit better. We don't have to set the standard all the way up and off the screen. We just have to set the standard to divinity. Hey, love what you're doing. Keep it simple. Purify your relationships with divinity. Purify your space with divinity. Purify your work with divinity. Purify your thoughts with divinity. And then you'll see that all this stuff is being given to you and given to us for a really, really, really good reason. We might not know what that reason is yet right now, but it's there. Trust me, it's there. So, getting into the text. All that being said, be really gentle with yourself when you listen to this. And I'm going to share some of my own experience and show, so that you can kind of get a sense of, have a little bit of a barometer. So, the divine and demoniac natures. Verse 1. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, fearlessness, purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, charity, sense control, performance of sacrifice, study of the Vedas, austerity, simplicity, nonviolence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, peacefulness, aversion to fault-finding, compassion toward every living entity, freedom from greed, gentleness, shyness, determination, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, and freedom from both envy and the passion for honor. These are the transcendental qualities born of the godly atmosphere, O son of Bharata. It's a pretty long list. Some of those almost seem unachievable, right? This is why you have to be gentle with yourself. Because you could look at this and go, freedom from anger. Damn. I got angry the other day. Shyness. I'm not a shy person. I'm always taking up space. Forgiveness. Oh, I'm not ready to forgive that person. That person really hurt. How can I forgive that? I can't forgive that. How can anybody forgive that? That was horrible. It's a step-by-step process where slowly, through ritual, steadiness, and maintaining certain values, that over lifetimes, these lessons and these qualities are imbibed. Remember, this is God talking. This is not some ordinary person. This is God saying to one of the greatest warriors and greatest humans that existed, who was not even born a human birth. Arjuna wasn't even born, he was manifested. So his ability to understand this is going to be different. And that's why he's getting this whole list all at once of these are the top tier world-class attributes of the Supreme Person. So if you're just hearing this for the first time, you might be looking at yourself and going, Jesus, Supreme Person, I am not. However, the potential and the capacity exists within you. So be gentle with yourself. Forgive yourself for that which you did not know. And say to yourself, today's the first day. Today is the day that I'm going to unite with spirit, I'm going to unite with divinity, and I'm going to start taking this list pretty seriously. Some of these things I might not necessarily understand yet. Like, what is renunciation? Well, renunciation is talked about earlier in the book, where we're not renouncing all material life and saying, well, I don't need to have a car, I don't need to have possessions, I don't need to have this, I don't need to have that, I don't need anything, I don't need you or anyone else. I'm united with God, I don't need anything, I'm just going to go live in a cave, I'm going to live up by myself, I don't need a partner, I don't need anything. That's not renunciation, that's fear. And it's a little reckless too. You do need relationships. You do need stuff. You need a car to get to work. You need work to pay your bills. And you want to pay bills because you want to have water. You want to have food. You want to have internet. You want to have all these things. You want to have stuff. Having the right relationship with your stuff, though, that's renunciation. When you renounce the idea that having a big old gong is going to make you happy. When you renounce the idea that having a fancy sweatshirt is going to make you happy. Right? When having the best earphones or a fancy mic or a brand new harmonium or the hottest partner or the best job, you renounce that is what happiness is. And you find shelter. You take shelter in the reality that all of it, only happiness comes from God, from service to something greater than myself, and knowing that those temporary things, while they're great now, they're going to come and they're going to go. And my mood, my state, my happiness, my ability to love, my ability to care, my ability to give and to feel good about myself and about others and about this world cannot be dependent on that gong. It can't be dependent on the sweatshirt. It can't be dependent on my partner. It can't be dependent on my job. It can't be dependent on anything material. That's renunciation. You can still have the relationship. You can still have all the stuff. I love my gong. I love my chimes. I love my sweatshirt. If I have a partner, I love my partner. But my partner left. You know what I mean? I've had plenty of instruments get stolen. I've been in car accidents. I've gotten fired from jobs. I've had a home. I've lost my home. I've had a gig. I lost a gig. Things come and they go. If I am able to remain steady, knowing that it's all part of the plan, it's all part of the purpose, it's all happening for me, it's not happening to me, nothing's been taken from me because I never really had it in the first place, then your life takes on this freedom of, okay, now all these other things are starting to make sense. How can I get angry about losing something if I never really had it? How can I get, how can I find fault? How can I find fault in anything if everything comes from God? These things start to become simpler, but you have to be resolute and steadfast in the knowing. It's all God, so it's all good. Any feeling that arises, love that feeling. Anything that comes up as torment or anguish or suffering around you, and you look at it, you project onto it, you think that you can be the one to fix it or heal it or save it, just take a step back for a second and first love it. Honor it as something that's happening for a reason, according to God's plan. And then see how you feel from there. Okay, so let's move on here. Verse 4. Those who are born with demoniac qualities exhibit pride, arrogance, false prestige, anger, harshness, and ignorance, O son of Pritha. The transcendental assets lead to liberation. And those assets, the transcendental assets, are those listed in verses 1 through 3. The transcendental assets lead to liberation, whereas the demoniac assets are meant for bondage. But do not worry, O son of Pandu, for you are born with transcendental qualities. So let's just take that for a second and switch it. Do not worry, Claudine. You are born with transcendental qualities. Do not worry, Josh. You are born with transcendental qualities. We can just replace O son of Pandu with ourselves. Because I can easily look back at verse 4 and go, damn, I'm kind of proud of the fact that I woke up and did satsang today. I've been arrogant. I've done things and I've thought that I was better than other people, or I've looked down on other people. I've touted around false prestige. I've gotten really angry, and I've held anger within my heart. I've been really harsh with people when I didn't understand, or when I felt hurt, when I felt betrayed. And I've been ignorant. I've just been dumb, thinking that I was just, there was no consequences. That action and reaction are not connected to each other. That somehow I'm great being that I am, I don't have to suffer consequences. I don't have to, that's for other people. Other people don't make, they make mistakes, but me, I don't know. I know what I'm doing. So I've got it. I've got it down. I've got all this figured out. Total ignorance. So I've been there, right? It's helpful to admit it so that you can learn to say, okay, well, I was there and it was part of God's plan. Do I want to continue to hurt myself over this, beat myself up over this? Or do I want to look at this as something that I can now learn from and I can grow from and it can make me stronger? I don't have to go back to that. I can transcend that. Now that I have a blueprint and I have a model for transcendence, I can create something beautiful from this suffering. Just like the lotus. The lotus grows from the mud. It doesn't grow up in the mud and up and out it goes. It flies away. It stays in the mud. Untouched, but it rises up. The mud is still there. The mud is the nutrition. It's the nutrients. It's the earth, that liquidy, salty, worm-infested space of darkness and, just and then up and out of it. Oh, the lotus. Right? This beautiful, pristine, pure flower. But if you pluck the lotus from out of the mud, no more lotus. Right? And if you remove the mud and you plow it all away and you make everything perfect and everything beautiful and every serene, no more lotus. It's the balance of the two. And that's what we have within us. We have the light, the dark, the good, the bad, the right and the wrong, the mud and the lotus. What do we focus on? What do we focus on? Verse 6. In this world, there are two kinds of created beings. One is called divine, and the other demoniac. I have already explained to you at length the divine qualities. Now I shall describe the demoniac. Those who are of demoniac quality do not know what is to be done and what is not to be done. They are unclean. They do not know how to behave, nor is there any truth in them. It's pretty heavy. But if you don't know what to be done and what's not to be done, you can turn to a bona fide spiritual master and say, how do I do this? How do I not do this? If you're unclean, you can get clean. If you don't know how to behave, you don't know what to do, you can learn that. Right? And if you're always lying, if there's no truth in you, It doesn't mean that truth doesn't exist anymore. It just means that you might not be aware of it or understand it, know the feeling of truth. If you've always been lied to, you will think that lying is the truth. So those who are demoniac are not just demoniac for no reason and with no hope for resolution or for liberation. And that's what we're going to see later on, right? So we'll keep going. Verse 8. They say, these are the demoniac, they say that this world is unreal, that there is no foundation and there is no God in control. It is produced of sex desire and has no other cause than lust. Following such conclusions, the demoniac, lost to themselves and without intelligence, engage in unbeneficial, horrible works meant to destroy the world. Taking shelter of insatiable lust, pride, and false prestige, and being thus illusioned, the demoniac are always sworn to unclean work, attracted by the impermanent. Their belief is that to gratify the senses until the end of life is the prime necessity of human civilization. Thus, there is no measurement for their anxiety. So we're gonna leave off there. I'm gonna explain just the last little bit of this. Actually, I'm gonna read these last two verses because last few verses, they tie it in pretty well. Sniffy, sniffy, sniffy. Being bound by hundreds and thousands of desires, by lust and anger, they secure money by illegal means for sense gratification. The demoniac person thinks, so much wealth do I have today, and I will gain more according to my schemes. So much is mine now, and it will increase in the future, more and more. He is my enemy, and I have killed him, and my other enemy will also be killed. I am the Lord of everything. I am the enjoyer. I am perfect, powerful, and happy. I am the richest person, surrounded by aristocratic relatives. There is none so powerful and happy as I am. I shall perform sacrifices. I shall give some charity, and thus I shall rejoice. In this way, such persons are deluded by ignorance. Thus perplexed by various anxieties and bound by a network of illusions, one becomes too strongly attached to sense enjoyment and falls down into hell. Self-complacent and always impudent, deluded by wealth and false prestige, they sometimes perform sacrifices in name only without following any rules or regulations. Bewildered by false ego, strength, pride, lust, and anger, the demon becomes envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in his own body and in others, and blasphemes against real religion. Because they are envious and mischievous, the lowest of people, I ever put them back into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. Because then it's like, well, why are they born? Why does it keep happening? Why does that exist? Gaining repeated birth, verse 20, among the species of demoniac life, such persons can never approach me. Gradually, they sink down to the most abominable position of existence. 21. There are 3 gates leading down to hell: lust, anger, and greed. Every sane person should give these up, for they lead to the degradation of the soul. One who is freed from these gates to hell performs acts conducive to self-realization and thus gradually attains to the supreme destination. So there we'll leave off. Hell, in this case, is not, you can think of it as a realm, as an actual place that people go, fire and brimstone, damnation, all that stuff. Or hell is the prison of the mind, the state of being in this reality and in this realm, suffering, hating, needing but never having, needing but never getting, always paranoid, always defending, always mad at what somebody else has, always looking for more, always thinking that this is fair. I should be the one. I should be the one that gets everything. Why not me? Forget about God. Let's talk about me. I want more wealth. And you know what? I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get it. And if I don't have it, life sucks. Hell is when you're sitting there saying, life sucks. You're in the Garden of Eden on a planet that has every resource that you could possibly imagine, created all for you. And life sucks. It's not enough for you to look around and go, thanks, God. This is awesome. I appreciate you. What can I do for you today? How can I serve you? You've done all this service to create all this for me. What can I do for you? Hell is a state of being. Heaven is a state of being. And it is our choice. If I am not feeling great and I'm constantly looking at life going, why not me? Why I need this, I need that, blah, 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 blah. In that moment, there is an opportunity. There is the ability to shift. Not every person is ready to make that shift, though. Sometimes they got to keep going lower. You got to keep going lower. They got to keep going lower and lower and lower and lower and lower until they finally, like you say in AA, you hit that bottom. And once you get to that point where you have nothing and no one, but you still exist, for some reason the realization comes, I exist. I'm not alone. I want to exist. I want to be alive. I want to feel good. And there's nothing else left. I have nothing left to lose. Nothing left, only to gain. But what do I want to gain? All the stuff that I had didn't make me happy. All the people that I had left or they died. My enemies took everything. I never told the truth, so I was always lied to. I never believed in anything, so no one ever believed in me. From that place, from that anguish and that despair and that feeling of real loss, not just that I lost $1 million because I gambled it away, but that I literally lost my life. I lost my sanity. I lost my happiness. I lost my faith. It's from that place that God turns and looks at you and goes, cool. Love you. What do you want to do? Still have your life. Still have your intelligence. Still got me. I'm here. I'll always be here. What do you want to do? You want to get right? You can stay down there if you want. You can stay there for lifetimes. Totally fine. I have plenty of games down there that you can play. Plenty of other people down there. You won't see them because you'll only be concerned with yourself. They won't see you. That's fine. You can stay. Or you build yourself back up. Excuse me. Rejoin society. Have a beautiful relationship. Cultivate something of value, meaning, and purpose. And then you're in heaven. All you got to do is forgive. All you got to do is let go of that anger. Let go of that resentment. Start to live a little bit more on the flow, seeing the good in all things, even in yourself. Forgive yourself for the things that you didn't know. These are the steps that we take towards purification. And I've been in those places. I've been in those deep, dark places where I felt completely alone, didn't see anyone or anything except myself, totally absorbed, self-absorbed, consumed. And it is hell. But there's a way back. There's always light. There's always beauty to be found. And we just have to look with the right set of eyes. And so as we read this book, and as we continue to gather for this spiritual discussion, we are slowly, gradually purifying ourselves, purifying our consciousness, and turning our minds and our hearts in the direction of that which is truly profitable, truly of service, truly gratifying, which is towards divinity, towards the divinity in every single thing that is created, and especially within ourselves. So on that note, as we bring our palms together, saying thank you to the body, thank you to this space, thank you to all of our teachers, and thank you to the spiritual science and the practice of yoga. You honor me with your presence here today. Thank you so much for letting me serve you, and thank you for sharing your practice with me today. Aho. Namaste. Word up. I will see you tomorrow for the conclusion of chapter 16.